The detention block of the Valiant Dawn smelled like recycled air and fear. Sergeant Riley Grant stood with his arms crossed, watching the Zelthran diplomats argue in their clicking, whistling language. They were insectoid creatures, tall and elegant, with compound eyes that reflected the harsh fluorescent lighting in kaleidoscopic patterns. "The creature is dangerous," Ambassador Thexar insisted, his mandibles clacking with agitation. "It has injured 3 of our guards. We demand it be destroyed immediately." Riley's jaw tightened. Behind the reinforced glass of Cell 7, a small form huddled in the corner. Kira. The cub was barely the size of a large dog, covered in silvery gray fur that seemed to shimmer even in the dim light. Her species, the Lixari, had been declared extinct 5 years ago when their homeworld was glassed by the Horde. Yet here she was, somehow alive, somehow found drifting in a damaged escape pod near the outer rim. "She's just scared," Riley said, keeping his voice level. "Your guards came at her with shock prods. What did you expect?" "We expected compliance," Thekazar snapped. "The salvage laws are clear. We found the pod in our territory. The creature belongs to—" "She's not a creature," Riley interrupted, his voice dropping to a dangerous quiet. "She's a child, and she doesn't belong to anyone." The ambassador's antennae twitched with irritation. "Your sentimentality is noted, Sergeant. But Earth has no claim here. The Council has already ruled." A scream cut through the argument. All heads turned toward the corridor. Through the detention block door burst a Zelthran guard, chittering in panic. Behind him, moving with impossible speed for something so small, came Kira. The cub's eyes, large, golden, and entirely too intelligent, were fixed on the fleeing guard. She moved like liquid shadow, her small claws clicking against the metal floor. The guard stumbled, and Kira was on him in an instant. Her jaws closed around the back of his carapace armor, and with strength that belied her size, she began to drag him backward. "Restrain it," Thekazar shrieked. Guards rushed forward, but Riley stepped between them and the cub. "Stand down! Move aside, human!" one of the guards hissed, raising his weapon. Riley's hand went to his sidearm. The room froze. For a long moment, the only sound was the scraping of chitin against metal, as Kira continued dragging the terrified guard across the floor. She pulled him past the arguing diplomats, past the frozen guards, straight toward Riley. The sergeant's heart hammered in his chest, but he didn't move. He'd studied the Lixari before they'd vanished. He knew their culture, their behaviors. This wasn't random. The cub reached Riley's boots and stopped. With deliberate care, she released the guard, who immediately scrambled away. Then Kira sat back on her haunches and gazed up at Riley with those impossibly expressive golden eyes. In that moment, Riley understood. The Lixari were pack hunters, social creatures, their young imprinted on protectors, on alphas. This wasn't aggression. This was a test. A question, Kira was asking. "Are you strong enough to protect me?" Riley slowly crouched down, making himself less threatening. He extended his hand, palm up, fingers relaxed. The cub tilted her head, studying him. Behind him, he could hear Thexar beginning to protest, but Riley tuned it out. The whole universe narrowed to those golden eyes. "Hey there, little one," he said softly. "You've had a rough time, haven't you?" Kira's ears, pointed and mobile like a cat's, swiveled toward his voice. She took a tentative step forward, then another. Her nose twitched, scenting him. Riley held perfectly still. The cub's cold nose touched his palm. Then, with a small chirping sound that might have been approval, she pressed her head into his hand. Something in Riley's chest cracked open. This tiny survivor, the last of her kind, had chosen him, had trusted him. "We're taking her," Riley announced, standing slowly. Kira immediately pressed against his leg, a warm, trembling presence. "Absolutely not," Thexar chittered. "The salvage claim is void," Riley interrupted, pulling out his comm unit. "I'm invoking Article 7 of the Sentient Protection Protocols. The Lixari are a recognized sapient species. This child cannot be claimed as salvage. She is alone. Dangerous. Where would she even go?" Riley looked down at Kira, who gazed back up at him with complete trust. He thought of Earth, of the rolling hills of Montana where he'd grown up. He thought of wide open spaces and clean air, far from the political machinations of the Council. "She comes with me. To Earth." The ambassador's mandibles worked furiously. "Humans, you're all the same. Always picking up strays. Always interfering." "Yeah, Riley agreed, a slight smile touching his lips. We're good at that. He bent down and carefully scooped Kira into his arms. She was heavier than she looked. Solid muscle under that soft fur. She curled against his chest immediately, her small claws kneading his uniform jacket. As Riley walked toward the door, guards parting reluctantly before him, he could feel the cub's heartbeat against his own, rapid but beginning to slow. Beginning to calm. Sergeant Grant, Captain Okonkwo's voice crackled over his comm. She'd been monitoring from the bridge. You just started a diplomatic incident. Worth it, ma'am, Riley replied. There was a pause, then a sigh. Yeah, it probably was. Get that kid to medical. And Riley, welcome to fatherhood. Riley looked down at Kira at those trusting golden eyes. The last Lixari, a miracle of survival, and somehow impossibly his responsibility now. Copy that, Captain, he said. As the detention block doors closed behind them, Kira made a small, contented sound and closed her eyes. For the first time since she'd been found, she slept, and Riley carried her home.